Welcome back, guys. It is Championship Racing once again here at SARCO. It is a Thursday night, which means we are back in the GTE Open class. We have 16 drivers that have entered into this race this evening, but unfortunately Ranaldo is plagued once again with his internet, and he unfortunately has to sit out, disconnecting just as we started getting into the lobby. Sit back and enjoy the highlights of the Tier 1 here, race number 2 at Oulton Park. And a quick thank you to Mettlestate and Thrustmaster for sponsoring this episode. For more on esports tournaments, visit mettlestate.com or visit evetech.co.za for more on any Thrustmaster products you may want to find out about. The starting lineup looks as follows. Jakes is on pole with Jacques Racing in second in that Ferrari. The second row is filled with Christopher in the Corvette, followed by Theo in the only Porsche in the series. In the third row, Marius, he's in 5th place, followed by Dirkie, he's in 6th. In 7th place is Stephen, once again doing a great performance there. Marshall, he is in 8th. 8th place goes to Jacques, next to him is Craig, both drivers in the Fords. 11th place goes to Shane, newcomer to the series, and he's alongside Ashley. And 13th place in the red Ford is Duppy, and he's just next to our Scottish International Ross. And picking up the last spot is Dylan in the vet. So now we wait for the green light. It is green light and we are racing here at Oulton Park. Well, there's a car stuck on the grid. Oh, that's Ross going right up the back of Dirkie. Not too sure what happened there. We'll definitely need to go back and have a look. Well, there's Marius and that is Theo having a little touch. Both joining back on the track, coming into turn number 1. As they head down turn number 2 in the kick, that is Ashley and Theo. They were touching. Let's just go have a look and see what happened in the replay. We can see this is from Ross's car. Dirkie's car completely unsighted. Absolutely crazy impact. And side by side, this is Theo and Ashley. You can see just touching. And that unfortunately sends both cars off. Ashley right up against the wall, then spinning it around. Very fortunate not to take anybody else with him. There will be the parting of the Dead Sea. There you can see Dylan coming down the hill. That's Theo to the left hand side. Jacques coming down right behind them. He sees what's happening. He moves over to the right hand side of the track. Ross now moving into position to brake, not being able to get out of the way in time and just clipping Ashley once again. So back to the front of the pack, and Jakes is away with Christopher in 2nd place in that Ferrari. That is Jacques Racing. He unfortunately losing a position. Christopher being able to get ahead of him. Single file through 7, 8 and 9. Great line there for those 3 drivers in the background there. I saw that is actually Stephen, who's up into 4th place. And just behind, coming over the hill there, that is Marshall up into 5th. So a really great start for those 2 drivers as well. Through turn number 10, that is now through turn number 11, is the 7th place driver, Morris. Just behind him in the black with white stripes for GTE. Number 7, that is Shane. Up through Clay Hill, turn number 13 they go, now heading towards turn number 14. We jump back to catch Theo going past. There's Dylan, a big power slide coming through turn number 15, managing to keep that car under control now, not spinning it out on the grass. But now he's got Duppy and Jacques, Mal Jacques as we know him, dropping down behind him. We move to lap number 2, and Jake's our current leader is followed by Christopher in 2nd place, then Jacques Racing in 3rd. Stephen, a great position up there in 4th for him. Craig is in 5th with Marshall in 6th. Morris in 7th. Shane is 8th. Theo's in 9th with Dylan up to 10th. Duppy 11th. Jacques in 12th place. That's Mal Jacques. Ashley in 13th place. Ross in 14th. And picking up the rear is Dirkie in 15th. 6th place Marshall trying to close down on the 5th place Craig. Just behind Marshall is Morris, then Shane, then Theo. turns number 8 and 9, back up the hill towards Hilltop, then hard on the brakes into turn number 10. All pretty neat and tidy so far. In shot Durkee, unfortunately not at his wheel when the race started, causing the rear enema that he got from the Scottish International, but back on the track and racing once again. Shane getting a little bit of pressure here from the Porsche, that is Theo. Shane running a little bit wide as he came through turn number 15. That's allowed Theo to go past, so Theo now moves up to 8th. Stephen coming through turn number 15, turns in a little bit too early, but manages to keep it all together. Very fortunate there for Stephen not to put it into the wall. Now into turn number 16, hard on the brakes. Quite tricky because you're turning downhill, he's lost the rear, that's put him into a spin. Once again, keeping it off the wall in the middle spin of the rear. Dylan getting very nervous there. Here comes Duppy, that was extremely close. Little reverse. Now Stephen unfortunately dropping down. That's Ashley Bestaga on past. Stephen down into 12th place. Previous stable teammates from last year, that is Duppy in the red and black GT with Maljacques in the red with blue. These two drivers trying to chase down the black number of Dylan in that Corvette. Dylan having starting down in 15th place, finds himself up currently in 10th, being chased by these two Ford GTs. Just not make any progress on Shane just yet, but a single foul as they head to Long Island corner, and it is just about flat out. The qualifying is flat out, but during the race there is definitely a little lift. Oh, big lock up there by Duppy. He's not going to be wanting too many of those. Back to the front of the pack, and Christopher is just not finding a way around Jakes. Very, very close between these two. Up through turn number 13. Well, a touch of the brakes there into 14 and get the car turning in through turn number 15, a double apex corner. Christopher having a little look to the inside, now moving to the outside, side by side on the brakes. Jakes gives him a little squeeze, forcing Christopher just to fall back just a little bit. On the power, Christopher tucks in right behind Jakes as they start across the start finish line to begin a lap number 3. Extremely tight, extremely difficult track to overtake. They'll head down the avenue through turn number 2, hard on the brakes now, get the car turning in on the power, nice and early through Cascade. We take a look at the current positions. Jake leads with Christopher in second. Jacques Racing is in third place with Marshall in fourth. Morris is in fifth place with Theo in sixth. Shane is in seventh place. We have Dylan up to eighth. Duppy's ninth. Maljacques, that is, in 10th place. Craig is in 11th. Stephen down into 12th after us having seen that spin. Then Ashley is in 13th place. Ross 14th and Durkee down in 15th position. We'll just check in with positions 8, 9 and 10, and Dylan still leading the two TTR drivers. For Duppy going a little bit wide coming out of turn number 15. Very neat and tidy for Dylan as well as Duppy coming down turn number 16. Crossing the line to begin their next lap. So Ashley back on the track, starting to close the gap up on Stephen, who's just ahead of him in the Corvette. Very unfortunate incident happened on turn number 1. A little touch between himself and Theo, and unfortunately Ashley finds himself further down the field, trying to just recover some points with this race this evening. The third place man is quiet here in the middle. Jacques Racing having a very good race here. Unfortunately has been plagued with some internet connectivity problems over the last couple of weeks. So I'm sure Jacques will be praying to the internet gods this evening, hoping that he's able to just hold the lobby, get himself some points. As you can see, Jake still leads with Christopher in second. Jacques Racing is in third, and then it is Marshall, Marius, Shane, Dylan, Duppy, Maljacques, then Craig, Stephen, Ashley, Ross, Theo and Durkee. We jump on board in the cockpit with Mal Jacques, and just ahead of him, that is Duppy. Duppy is chasing Dylan, and Dylan is chasing Shane. A big lock up by Dylan there, coming into turn number 10. Nice and wide line there for Jacques, being able to use as much as the throttle, coming on their power through turn number 13, and tricky here into 14, now into turn number 15, a double apex corner. You've got to be careful, running wide there can definitely kick your car. Back on the brakes, Dylan locks up once again. Jacques runs himself a little bit wide, but doesn't lose too much of his momentum, chasing it down Duppy as they cross the line to begin their 7th lap. Duppy's a little bit slower through there. You can see how Jacques just closed up some of their time. Now through turn 1, and hard on the brakes here into turn number 3. Oh, there's Shane coming back across the road. Very, very close there. Definitely want to go and see what happens. You can see Shane getting it a little bit wrong, coming into 3. That's put him on the dirt. He's hit the curb, and that's just pulled his car to the inside, and unfortunately sending him off. We're going to keep the action going here with Jacques chasing down Duppy. The two of them trying to get their way around Dylan. Coming through into turn number 5. Great tight line for both the drivers. Dylan leading the way now into turn number 7 and 8. Well, there's Jacques. He's clipped that inside tyre. There he is, stuck in the middle of the track. I want to go back and see exactly what happened there. As we jump back in a slow motion, you can see Jacques' approach is really good. Onto the brakes. As he starts turning, it looks like he just turned in too much. Just manages to clip the wall. And that unfortunately is going to leave him in the middle of the track. To the front we go, and the race leader Jakes still has Christopher very much behind him as they brake hard now into turn number 16. There's Christopher. They still has not been able to let Jakes get away from him. I'm sure Jakes is going to be wanting to find just that little bit more pace. Crossing the line now into turn number 1. Then now through turn number 2. It seems that Christopher just fell back just a little bit. Not sure whether he'll be nursing a slowdown penalty. Jakes pants around here through Cascades, turn number 3. Down a lakeside straight. And through this very daunting island bend, turn number 4. Before he goes hard on the brakes here, turn number 5. For this tight right-hander hairpin. You see that Jacques has got himself moving again. He has cleared himself from the tyres. We move to Marshall, and just behind Marshall, this is currently the battle for 5th and 6th place. Marshall looking really comfortable in that Corvette, with Morris sustaining a little bit of damage off the contact earlier on with Theo. Is keeping Marshall honest, but Marshall definitely driving a great race here this evening. Both drivers very comfortably through, and as I say, that Marshall runs himself just a little bit wide, but he manages to recover. Dylan too is wide, coming through turn number 11, but he still has Duppy very much in his rearview mirror. Duppy also driving a very, very good race, keeping Dylan very honest as both the drivers come through turn number 15. We jump back to 11th place, and that is Craig in the blue and white Ford GT chasing down Shane. Shane unfortunately having lost 3 places, coming through turn number 3, losing the rear, and having Dylan, Duppy and Jacques going past him. Craig was running quite high up in this race, but unfortunately we did not see where he had lost those places. Craig possibly having gone off with a spin, but now starting to put pressure here on Shane, starting to close up this gap and looking forward and taking a position back. Second place driver is right up behind Jakes. Christopher really doing a great job there, keeping the number right in his place, waiting for an opportunity to pounce. The two drivers go through turn number 1. Very close up to that curve into turn number 2. Different lines for the two drivers. I'm not sure whether Jakes ran a little bit wide there, but he did not seem to compromise any of his straight line speed. Coming down a lakeside, then into turn number 4. I'm sure these two are going flat out through that corner at the moment. So now that we've stumbled on this very interesting view, let's take a look at the current positions. Jakes, he still leads with Christopher in second place, right behind him. Jacques Racing, he's in third place with Marshall in fourth. Morris, he's in fifth place with Dylan in sixth. Doopy's in seventh with Stephen in eighth. Ashley, he's moved up to ninth with Craig in 10th. That is Shane in 11th place with Ross in 12th. Jacques, Theo and Dirkie unfortunately having retired due to damage on their cars. So you can see that the weather has now changed. The clouds have come in, starting to make the track a little bit darker. The track temperatures will start changing and making it a little bit easier on the tires. But as Jakes and Christopher come out of turn number 3, we have to remember that the time progression was on 10, so we will be expecting it to get dark a little bit soon. And a great race still developing here between, that is Marshall and Morris. Marshall really driving well, although it was Ross having been lapped. He just about got that wrong but managed to hold on. Well, that was Morris getting a little kick off the rear. I want to go back and see what happened. You can see him coming through turn number 3. Car just oversteers and it just bites, sending him off into the other direction and having to now rejoin the track. That now leaves Dylan closing the gap there on Morris. Have a little look back, and yes, there is Doopy once again still behind Dylan, waiting for an opportunity. Dylan has managed to open just a little gap, but that has not kept the fighting spirit of Doopy. Race leader Jakes is still being followed by Christopher, an extremely close match here. These two drivers starting to just close up on Craig. Oh, very close there for Jakes. Still managing to keep it on the track. That's what he might have gone a little bit wide. But Christopher having not been able to find a way around Jakes just yet. I'm sure he's going to be fighting all the way to the end. Out of turn number 15. Jakes going into defending the inside line. Now hard on the brakes into turn 16. Now down the hill through 17. Jakes just giving Craig a flash, just letting him know that they're coming. Through turn number 1. Now into turn number 2, down on the brakes, the nose just dipping enough to get that car slowed down, turning in. Jakes and Christopher getting very close to Craig as they now come through turn number 4. Well, there's Craig, looks like he's gone off, and that's Jakes who's gone straight into Craig and found himself in the barrier. A look back at Craig, you can see that the guys are just far enough so you can commit to this corner, but the rear just steps out of him. He then comes straight back across the track, and unfortunately collecting both Christopher as well as Jakes. So we jump back to Dylan and he can start seeing Morris. Dylan now closing the gap up on Morris. Through turn number 15. There's Morris in pictures, so Dylan definitely making some progress here. Morris definitely battling with some sort of damage. You can also see that the time has now got dark. with flames now definitely illuminated on that downshift. As both drivers come through turn number 2, now into turn number 3. See Dylan starting to close that gap. Into turn number 3, we see dust on the side of the road. And there's Morris in the wall. Let's go see what happened. You just see as he turns in, the rear just lets go, snaps, straightens him up. Once he's on the grass, he's a missile going towards the wall. So Jake's unfortunately having to come into the pits to get that damage done. Christopher still leads with Jacques Racing now in second. Marshall's in third. Dylan's up into fourth. Duppy, Stephen. And we see Jake's dropping down below Shane. Morris is in ninth. A great consistent race here for Duppy, finding himself currently in fifth place. Duppy not being able to close down Dylan and make that move, but still a great race for him after all. Jacques Racing has had a quiet race, having been in the third place for the majority of this race. He's found himself in a second. Now that Jakes has dropped down after needing some repairs after the contact between himself and Craig. Jacques generally plagued with disconnections, and unfortunately this is one of those times once again, as you see Jacques just glitching off the track. That was him essentially disconnecting, and we'll see the static right now, and that's unfortunately Jacques out of the race. Then the race leader, that is Christopher, having fought behind Jakes for probably about 80% of the race. He will come around the last corner for the last time. He will cross the line to win. So after 40 minutes, this is the final result. Christopher comes home in first place with Marshall. A great result there for him in second. Dylan happy with his third, having started 15th on the grid. Duppy takes away a fourth with Stephen in fifth. Jake's a very disappointing sixth there, because this was his race to win. Shane will come home in a seventh place with Ashley down in eighth, and Ross will finish in ninth place, with Morris unfortunately having to retire after coming off in the Long Island Bend. Well guys, if you enjoyed that, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the notification button, and you'll be notified anytime there's a new live stream up, or anytime there's a new replay loaded. Thanks for watching, yos.